So hello, I'm Maya Grace in case you don't know, and I love it when things end the same way that they started. I have been seeing the bats in my circle losing their mind over the clean goth aesthetic, and this is derived from the clean girl aesthetic, which is where essentially a bunch of white teenage girls dress like J-Lo in the early 2000s and pretend like it's brand new. But honestly, nothing in fashion is brand new. This is like normal. Everything rhymes with a previous trend or movement, and usually marginalized people are not acknowledged for their contributions in that cycle of inspiration. I know that I'm late to the buzzword of clean goth, but I'm early to the next iteration. Whether it's visco, clean girl, or quiet luxury, middle class conformity needs a name. And of course, a host of products that you need to buy to be part of the cool kids club. Some teenagers are doing clean girl but make it black and calling it clean goth. Essentially what they're doing is little to no face makeup, just the eyeliner and maybe a black lip gloss or just regular lip gloss so that their face can breathe, which is honestly just healthy and dermatologist recommended. Is everyone else not doing that at least occasionally? But the other thing that they're doing is they're wearing black Lululemon and calling that goth clothing, and people are beside themselves about that. I have found a lot of people pointing out that this is literally just how goth moms dressed on casual days.
This right here, that's what my mom wears. Like those leggings, that tank top, she puts like a cardigan shawl on top, you know? Claw clip, my mom invented the claw clip. She doesn't wear much, she doesn't wear any makeup, and her skincare is very simple because she's just gorgeous. And then like a thermos with her, a water everywhere, that's what my mom looks like all the time. For reference, this is what my mom looked like in the 90s. Here's her more casually. Do you see the clean girl goth aesthetic that came in once she had child? So this, to me, not a micro trend. This is my mother, who could no longer dress in that 90s goth grunge punk style that she was in previously, and like wanted to be comfortable, but also liked black. So this is what she settled on. Like, and then this is a picture of my mom. More recently, the other two were from the 90s. This is my dad. He's in the picture too, but he's not the point of this video, so.
And I also found this lady on TikTok who is basically doing like a foundationless clean girl goth look, but she's doing it to embrace her natural skin tone and texture because she like loves herself, flaws and all, which is kind of what the goth movement and its makeup was designed to do, to like embrace the abnormalities of yourself and see them as beautiful and like sometimes exaggerate them in order to like highlight the strange beauty of it. Like goth makeup is a rebellious act of self-expression. How someone chooses to do that is going to be deeply personal and not follow a specific list of things. I don't know. Might be too philosophical for this. I keep seeing people confused by or defending clean goth, but I've had a hard time finding any videos that are genuinely like mad about it. I keep seeing people online saying that people are mad about it, and I've talked to a couple people in person who are mad about it. What's happening online doesn't seem to be people seeing it and getting mad and actually gatekeeping. It just seems to be a lot of people going like, no, yeah, that's a thing already. I have found one singular TikTok that wasn't rage bait and wasn't someone just genuinely confused by what clean goth is, and that's this one right here.
Please stop trying to make alternative fashion styles palatable by taking away all of the character from them. Like, clean goth is basically the non-committal capitalistic way of being goth. And of course, dressing in a certain style, especially a more extreme style, can be more expensive. But again, you don't have to label something as clean in order to wear it minimally. You can just be a goth who listens to the music. You can just be someone who really enjoys the color black. You don't have to make a subculture clean to enjoy it. Trying to gentrify a subculture or style of fashion is just silly because you're putting an unnecessary label on a term that just doesn't need it. I kid you not, this is exactly what I wore when I had to go to a work event. This isn't clean goth, this is just corporate, this is just capitalism. I look like any other businesswoman. Just because it's a black outfit doesn't mean you have to call it goth. We don't need to aestheticize or corification every type of fashion style.
And I mean, I am a little elitist, I won't say that I'm not, and I can make an argument for some level of gatekeeping when it comes to defining a genre or defining a word. But this isn't outside of the previously existing gate. We're building a new gate inside of the thing and like circling out part of it that's already been there. The main criticism is that this isn't a new take on the goth aesthetic, that this is just someone taking the color black and putting it on a separate fashion trend and calling it a new thing. I don't know that I fully agree with that though, because every generation has a gaggle of baby bats who do the style that is predominantly done for their age demographic at the time, but in black. And that is the accessible form of goth or alt or emo or whatever we're calling it at that time. Emo was literally just early 2000s fashion, but black and neon. Like, it's the same thing that everyone else was wearing, but black and neon. A lot of people who were emo, yes, were buying their skinny jeans from Hot Topic, but some of them were also buying flannels from Hollister because neon was everywhere at the time. Nothing happens in a vacuum, and a lot of the hallmarks of an era are kind of hard to get away from, like the silhouette, the waistline, and the cup that you're carrying around. Stanley Cup girlies, I get it. I actually don't get it, but I'm gonna pretend like I get it. But this is part of the reason why people who identify as emo are nostalgic for the early 2000s and also are engaged with early 2000s stuff outside of that alternative umbrella. This is why gothic people romanticize the whole of the 1980s and not just things that have the goth stamp of approval. This is also why grunge kids pretend like they remember the 90s even though they were only a toddler. I'm in that picture. I'm actually in all of these pictures if I'm being entirely honest. And while most youth-based subcultures are rebellious and do indeed twist the norms of fashion at the time, some kids just aren't in a place where they can make those choices for themselves. Think about how a teenager gets their clothes, right? Their mom has the final say on what goes into their wardrobe for the most part. There's a lot of ways that a parental figure or guardian can limit what a teenager has access to. And there's also hard forms of control and soft forms of control. And a lot of parents have a particular image that they want for their kids at best. And at worst, there's a whole demographic of moms that treat their children like a fashion accessory. Like, there's a chance that some of these kids can only control the color of the Lululemon leggings that their mom has put in their wardrobe. Maybe not even that. Disposable income and no one who needs to approve what goes into your wardrobe are massive privileges of adulthood that I think a lot of us forgot what it feels like to not have. Even if you take disposable income and access to the outside world to buy clothing out of the equation, I learned how to sew my own clothes in high school to try to get some kind of control over what I was putting on my body. And my clothes that I hand sewed would sometimes still wind up either in the Goodwill donation pile or just straight up being thrown away, depending on if they had parental approval or not. So teens really don't have a say in what goes on their body. They only have a say on how they categorize it or what they call themselves. I thought this outfit was rockabilly. I thought this outfit was grunge. I was trying. So a chance that teeny boppers wouldn't feel exactly safe or comfortable and at ease around their peers if they weren't wearing the uniform subtly mandated by their peer group. Like, as a teen, I can remember what it felt like to be the odd one out. Everyone was wearing Hollister and I was not, for my own personal reasons, which I'm sure is shocking and unsurprising for all of you. But I did wind up in a couple of unsavory situations because of it. I didn't always feel super safe. I'm not going to use belittling terms like bullying because someone putting their physical hands on you is not bullying. By legal definition, that is assault. And I'm not saying that someone should dress in a particular way to get people to like them. And I'm not saying that if someone doesn't do that, they deserve to be hit. I'm not victim blaming or anything like that. I just want to give people permission to do what they need to do to feel safe, and also kind of point out that no one is entitled to your full personality and identity. It's great to have a good idea of who you are, but you're not always going to be able to like express or communicate that to everyone. Some people get the corporate version of you, or the casual version of you, or the clean version of you. That's what clean goth is, that's what casual goth is, that's what corporate goth is, and honestly, these labels are repetitive. The labels in general are confusing and borderline useless whenever you try to pretend like they're rigid and mean something across all contexts to all people. Music geeks already know this about genre, like those tired, overspun arguments about how The Cure isn't really goth, and neither is 9 Inch Nails. That was the predecessor to this current conversation that's happening about fashion now. It's almost like goth communities are transitioning from being focused on showing up to concerts and engaging in music genre and engaging with the music directly, and more of a focus has been put on the physical hallmarks and like look of the subculture. You know, almost as if a global happening had forced everyone into their homes where the only way they were able to engage with their communities and their subcultures was through like a visual medium or something. And that like changed the perspective of things. What do I know? So people build like proper and respectable, objectively goth outfits using athleisure pieces all of the time. And not just the girls who slash and crochet their leggings. However, I love you. That looks incredible. Please continue to do it. Like, this top is dance wear. It was probably worn by a 12-year-old once for their recital and then donated to Goodwill. Also, this sports bra is really great to wear to concerts because it is moisture wicking. Athleisure is great if you're gonna be dancing a lot because it like is stretchy and comfortable. Like, it's a good base layer. You can put chains on it, you can put studs on it. It's pretty easy to find at the Goodwill. Not to mention, black athleisure is really just baby's first tech wear. Like, if you're a middle-class teen, you want to look like the cool models you see on No Tex's Instagram, maybe, you're probably going to try to DIY this with athleisure pieces. And it's gonna look like clean girl, but black. And if you want a majority of your peers to think that you're cool or want to talk to you, you're going to focus on what you share in common. And if you're lucky, that might be the music you listen to, or the aesthetics that you find yourself drawn to, or maybe the media that you consume. But if that's not the case, all you have to relate on might be your stickered up Stanley cup and your black Lululemon leggings. If you happen to like or own those things, why not fully benefit off of it? I don't know. Get what you can get, man. But logic-informed empathy aside, what I really want to talk about is the big picture of this cultural moment. From, of course, my own biased perspective. Clean goth, or athleisure in black with a little bit of zest, isn't new. Not just because people wear this style casually all the time and didn't feel the need to name it, but health goth was a thing. It was also sort of the sunrise of this culture of micro aesthetics. Thank you, Tumblr and Snapchat. And I find this so interesting because I remember when health goth was first being discussed and introduced and then immediately disappeared. I managed to dig up this article talking about how people are starting to define their own personal brand and styling and marching to the beat of their own drum, right? Self-identifying and finding their style and finding community in the enjoyment of labeling and observing daily wear and street styles, right? There was a whole trend of people popping up that wanted to look at what actual human beings were wearing and how they were styling and editing the clothes that they were purchasing from major retailers or coming into contact with through whatever means they were getting them. And brands like Nike were adapting to the wearer's wants and desires to better serve them, making tools of self-expression that would be useful for the people on the ground floor that were self-expressing through other means. Okay, I was listening to this section of video as I was editing and it was not good, so we're refilming it. I cannot put you through the experience of listening to me badly explain cyberpunk, and also I forgot that this particular piece of media existed until just now. This perfectly expresses everything about health goth that I wanted to say because it's probably the most potent creation from that movement. It is very corporate, but again, health goth was very corporate. It was very branded. You know, it was a lot of black Nike and black Adidas. This particular commercial was made by Adidas. You might already know what one I'm talking about because it was very memorable. Like, they do this thing where they have the Venus de Milo and they flash it in between this gorgeous sci-fi scene with this woman laying here and these angels crawling around along the sides, and it's just gorgeous. Like, it's so imaginative and rich. And then they also show several other images, including this woman who is bed rotting, but she's just gone like full Victorian woman, just pale, languishing, covered in flowers. It's very Penny Dreadful. That's all I'm saying. Not to be like romanticizing tuberculosis, but that was done a very long time ago. Tuberculosis is bad. There's other traditions of specifically the goth aesthetic that are being honored by this commercial. We see fetish wear being done. This lady surrounded by knives is in fact wearing shibari, and it's like very tastefully done. I don't know why Snoop Dogg is like specifically here, but he is here, and like, we love it. We love Snoop Dogg. But Gothic literature and Gothic media has always been a little bit sci-fi-ish and a little bit edgy, more than a little bit edgy. It's always been very edgy, and that's like the vibe of this. I'm gonna play you just a couple seconds of like the build up to the clip, but it sounds like an open mic night or like a casual jam with artsy friends where they're sharing their spoken word poetry. Like, I've been in rooms that sounded like this. This is a genuinely good representation of like what it sounds like when a bunch of alternative people get together and do something creative. I like it. I'm sorry. I really like the Adidas commercial. It has the same visual vibe of like whenever a bunch of people have a party in an abandoned church. Like I've been to abandoned church parties, and this is what that is like. It's like this commercial. There is one very tongue-in-cheek moment where they're basically like, yes, this is an advertisement for shoes specifically. I mean, there's shoes littered all throughout the commercial, of course. They do a reference to like that one painting. They do that essentially, except Adam is like way down in the corner and God is like, take the shoe. You want the shoe. All in all, this is the general vibe of health goth. The people who were wearing it in person were typically just wearing like flowy tall tees. That's another 2014's throwback. You remember the tall tee? That disappeared from the zeitgeist. And there would be like black leggings underneath. A lot of people were wearing Adidas with the stripes. We were starting to see black mesh used in sportswear a lot. So there would be like cool cutout panels to your leggings. It was pretty sweet. It was like really nice actually. But yeah, back to not editing Miah. I also think that the cottagecore boom and dark academia like oversaturation that happened really woke something up in people. And as micro-labeling became mainstream, just like everything else that goes mainstream, capitalism ruined it and sucked all of the life out of it. Everything is moving so fast now. You'll go through your short-form algorithmic scrolling machine and you'll see a bunch of tomato girls one week, and then next week it's all quirked up grandpas or volcano cousins. I made those last two up, but these are all made up, so does it really matter? And people feel validated when the thing that they like gets mainstream airtime. My favorite shade of purple is really trendy right now, and I see it everywhere, and I'm pretty happy about that because I want to wear that color, so I'm gonna buy some of that color. Or like people have been going to Urban Outfitters and are really excited that they have coquette or early 2000s hyper girly aesthetic things. But like, of course they do. That's the biggest thing on the internet right now. There's bows on everything. And businesses like the larger ones in the mall want to sell products. To quote my former boss, our job is not to build a community. If I give you pencils, I want you to sell as many of them as you can for as much as people are willing to pay. They don't care about your subculture's underground. They don't care about the philosophy behind the aesthetic. They don't even care about the clean girls. All they care about is your money. But micro aesthetics weren't really meant to be micro trends exactly. They were just meant to give a name to the natural aesthetics that people had spontaneously developed on their own. It wasn't supposed to be a time limited, it enters the market, it floods the market, it dies off thing. You know, that's part of the reason why people loved cottagecore so much, because it was a style and an aesthetic that people were drawn to already and wanted to engage in and had been wanting to do for years. You know, some of these people were dancing around the idea of cottagecore for a decade, and then all of a sudden it had a label in a community, and that was wonderful. Even the mob wife microtrend, it's not real. It's a fake label put on a huge fashion concept that has been thriving since the 80s. Everyone knows the vintage Gucci looks good with big fur. That's just a natural law of the universe. Hey, there's a new trend. If I hold my phone in the air and then drop it, it'll fall. I'm calling it like gravity core. Facts can't be trends. Facts are just facts. Gucci and fur look good together on people. Not necessarily on me, but on people. Microtrends have overstayed their welcome, and people are sick of it. So while the beginning of micro-labeling made people feel seen and valid and helped them find search terms and even their own micro-communities to share styling tips with, the ending of this story is somehow a ton of textile waste and a bunch of people who are exhausted with being pressured with styling options. It's like choice fatigue on a mass scale. And all of the teens who have spent their developmental years only being exposed to this form of fashion content have been put through the ringer. These kids are not all right. And the more that we mock them for the way that they're engaging with talking about their fashion, the more that they're going to be susceptible to these corporations that want to package up a fast fashion identity for them and then sell them a new one fast enough that they won't notice that the pieces from their previous aesthetic are falling apart at the seams. I know that I just spent like 20 minutes talking about how I'm like really scared for this generation of kiddos coming up and like all of the brand new things that these teens are already having to navigate. But I'm also really excited to see the new perspective that this brings in like 10 years, because we're going to have a completely different view of art and fashion and clothing. And I don't think it's going to be a bad one. I think it's going to be beautiful. This is my nieces and nephews' generation. And I'm a little bit of a chronic optimist, but like, I'm really excited to see what happens. I know that doomer perspectives are like really common, especially whenever we're talking about things involving ecology and society, but like I'm hopeful. The more I see from Gen Alpha, the more hopeful that I am, and grains of salt go where they must. I do dress in variations of what you could call clean goth. I also think that the Skabibi toilet meme is funny. Gen Alpha is making unintelligible puns exactly the way that we did, and I'm really proud of them. Also, if you think that Skabibi toilet is like signaling the end of all intelligible thought, I would ask for you to explain to me the deep and profound meanings behind Nyan Cat. Thank you very much. So as much as it's fun for some people to crack jokes about like the clean goths ruining the scene, I think that these babies are gonna grow up and do great things. And I say this because I looked like this in high school, and I'm a delight to my scene now. I host free sewing events, and I give out free sewing patterns. I also carpool the girlies to goth night, and I'm CPR certified, so if any of y'all choke on your bad hot takes, I can perform the Heimlich on you. That is a joke, but I also am CPR certified, and I recommend everyone do the same. Anywho, if you want one of those free sewing patterns that I mentioned before, I have PDF print-offs at the link in the description box below. That's my Ko-fi. That is also where you can go to buy me a hot coffee and fling it right at my delicate squishy body, resulting in third-degree burns. Currently, I'm putting together a bunch of elegant gothic Lolita patterns, and I'm going to work on some gothic basics that are designed to be made from upcycled fabric soon. And if you liked this video, be sure to like it so that more awesome people like you can see it. And I will see you in the next— I hit myself in the face with my microphone. That like felt so weird. With nobody but you. Or Deftones. Oh my god. Frame. I have no idea if this kitty is in frame or not.